Okay, in this final vid, I'm going to show you a system that you can use to implement pickups. Okay, now these are going to be generated by the level map, so I'm just going to add some pickups tiles to the level. So let's just do this. So I'm just going to put some comments in first. So one, I'll make speed up, so that's going to speed the player up. Two is going to be speed down. A3 is going to be invincibility. I can't spell that, invincibility. And 4 is going to be slow bullets. Okay, I could implement more, but they just give you an idea of how to do it. So those characters, 1, 2, 3, 4, are going to represent those. So I'm just going to add these to my map. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, right. So to get these to be generated, I want them as sprites. We're going to need to add some spare tiles to our tile list. So I've gone to level.cs, I've gone to the generate tiles method, and I'm just going to copy and I'm going to paste 4 more tiles. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I don't do that, then I'll get an error because I'll have not enough tiles defined for the tiles that I've built for the tile map. It doesn't matter actually what color these are because they're not going to be shown. Okay, because I'm going to generate them. Right, so I'm going to have pickups, and I'm going to have 4 different types of pickups, but essentially they're all going to be the same thing. So what I need to do is I'm going to create a base pickup class. So I'm going to create that first. It's got the basic behavior for all my pickups. It's not going to be very complicated, but let's just create this one manually. So we're going to say project add class. It's just going to define the basic sprite things. They're all going to have the same graphic. You could change these, but it's going to have just, I'm just going to do it with a color. So I'm going to call this pickup. It's going to inherit from sprite because it's going to be a sprite. That doesn't exist because I'm not using the library. So I'm going to do control full stop and add engine 7. In fact, if I just go to the top of level, it's a damn sight quicker just to copy the using statements. I'll just do that. Okay, right. So we're going to create the constructor for this. So public pickup. It's not going to have any parameters. We're going to make sure we add this sprite to the engine. We're going to define the frame for it, frame.define, and I'm just going to use one of the circles, 32 by 32. I'm going to make sure it's collision active because we want to be able to pick it up. So collision active equals true. And then I'm going to provide a virtual method. Okay, so I'm going to say public virtual void because I don't want it to return anything. But this is going to carry out the action of the pickup. But it's going to accept as a parameter a player sprite. Okay, so the only thing, because this is just a general sprite, the only thing that this is going to do is going to kill the pickup when it's picked up. Okay, so when we carry out the action of the sprite. So what we'll now be able to do is be able to make up our other pickups based on this one. And what we'll do is well, you'll see, we'll override this action to perform the actual actions. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to spawn these things from level. So that's just a basic setup. Okay, so that's all the common things. We're all going to use a circle. The color and everything's going to be set in the other sprites. Okay, so we're going to go back to level and we're going to go to the generate sprites and we're going to add some new cases. Okay, so I'm going to say case 1. And then to help me, I'm going to say pickup P equals new, and this was speed up, if I remember rightly. I'll double check. Let me just check up my level. 1 was speed up, 2 was speed down. So I'm just looking here where I put my little comments to myself. Right, so that's Go on level. So speed up, and the position we're going to display it just like we did with the coin. We're going to give it pos, the tile map position, so it appears at the right place. And then we're going to return -1 to get rid of the marker tile. Right, so I'm going to copy and paste this 4 times. So 2, 3, 4. So we now got 4 of them. Change the character values so they're not duplicating, because it won't like that. And just change the name of these. A, B. They're only temporary. We're going to get the engine, the Visual Studio, to do a load of work here and generate these properly for us. We'll delete the pickup P parts in a minute. Right, so I don't want them all to be called speed up, so I'm going to have one called speed down. Invincibility, and we're going to have slow bullets. Okay. Right, so we need to create all these. So if we do control dot over speed dot, so speed up, control dot, generate class in new file for that. And as we do each one of these, as soon as the error's gone, we'll delete the pickup P equals bit. Let's do speed down. So control full stop, generate class in new file, and delete the pickup A equals bit. Invincibility, so control full stop, generate invincibility in new file, delete those. And the last one, slow bullet, so control dot, generate class, slow bullets in new file. So generate that one. So just remember, it's just pressing enter on that, or you can click and then delete that bit. Okay, so that's going to set up on the screen those pickups. So let's go through and do each one. So let's do speed up first. So you can see it's got a position parameter. Right, we don't need the field, so we'll delete that. And we'll use the position parameter to set the position 2D equals pos. And we'll give it a color. So let's make this one blue. So wash equals color dot blue. Right, so we've identified what we want it to look like. So all we've got to do now is set up the action, the override. Okay, so after the constructor line, if we just type the word override and press space, it'll show us the things that we can override. And you can see there's the action. All right, so we're just going to press enter to select that, and it'll fill the rest of the code in for us. Now, it's automatically said, oh, the base class has already got a definition. We will run that. So that's fine, and we'll run that because we want to do it because that'll kill. So before we do that base action, we're going to do our action, so the speed up thing. Now, what we shouldn't do, the pickup should not be directly manipulating the player character. It should only be the player that can mess about with its speed. So we can do that because we've got a reference to the player here as a parameter. We can say p dot change speed. Okay, and then we'll pass it a value. So this is the speed up. So I'm gonna want to make it, and we'll put the code in the player in a minute. I'm gonna make it 2 times as fast. Now let's make it 1.5 times as fast. Then I'll put an F. Okay, because it's a fraction, floating point value. That doesn't exist. Now this is where Visual Studio is quite clever. If I do control full stop, it'll generate the method in player for me. Okay, and you see it's giving me a little preview there. So I'm going to generate that. Okay, we won't worry about how that works for now, because we'll write that code in a minute. Right, let's do speed down. So speed down, again, we don't want the field, so let's get rid of that. And we want to use the pos to set our position. So we can say position 2D equals pos. Let's make this one red. So we say wash equals color dot red. And again, we're going to override the action. So we're going to say type override after the constructor, press space, pick action. So before the base.action line, we're going to slow the character down. So we're going to say p dot change speed. And this time, because we're being clever, we're going to say half the speed that you normally go at. So 0.5. Now that already exists. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to set all these up first, and then we're going to write the code. Okay. Right, so let's do invincibility. Again, we don't want the field. And we want to use the pos to set position 2D. Invincibility, I'm going to make yellow. So wash equals color dot yellow. Now, what you could do is you could define frames. If you've got a nice graphic for all your pickups, you could define frames here. All right, after setting the position. Right, okay, let's set up the action. So after constructor, type override, and then space, and pick action. So this one will say, what should we say, make invincible, or it's p dot invincible. Invincible. Okay, we don't need to pass a parameter for that if we're just saying just become invincible. Okay, although we could give a time. Let's give a time. So invincibility for, let's make it for 4 seconds. Put 4f, so it picks a float for us. Right, so control full stop, generate method player.invincible. So it'll make that for us. And then bullets. So slow bullets. So let's delete the field. We don't want that. Let's use pos to set the position 2D. Now there is a bit of duplication here, so you could argue that this should be in the base class. But yeah, it can be, but I'm not going to worry about that now. So override and then action player. Okay, so this one, so if we have a p dot change, let's call it change bullet speed, and do the same thing. So this is going to make the bullets go slow, so I'm going to do 0.3f. So this is a bad pickup. Okay, so let's get to generate that. So we should have 4 methods in our player class now. So let's just go to where change bullet speed is. So if we just press F12 while our cursor's on change bullet speed, it should take us to it. So you can see here's the classes that we've got: change speed, invincible, and change bullet speed. All right, so what we need to do is write the code for these. So invincibility is easy to code. We just need a Boolean variable, a true or false value, to say whether we're going to do collision detection with the enemies. Okay, we want collision detection to be active because we want to be able to pick up other things, but we're just going to put a guard variable. Okay, so we need a few fields for this. To do the changing of the bullet speed, we need to know what the standard speed is, so that we can manipulate the current speed of bullets, and the same for the character speed. So we need to create some variables like that. So let's go right to the top where all the fields are for player, and let's add in some extra fields. So we've got bullet speed. So let's put a bullet speed one in first. So let's say private float and call it standard bullet speed, and we'll set that to 300. Next to our speed one, we'll have our standard player speed. We'll call it float, and we'll call it, so it's standard player speed, and we'll set that to 200. Okay. So the other thing we want a Boolean to say whether we're detecting collision with the enemies. So let's put another one in. So private bool, and we'll call it can die, and we'll set that to true by default. So we can die. Right, so we've got to do a little bit of updating. Okay, so in our collision handler, it's something we need to now add to that. So let's find it something. There it is. We need to add another else to pick it in pickups. So I'm in player hit something. So I'm going to say else if hit is pickup, and this is where the real beauty of it comes. And this is why we did the inheritance. All we've got to do, we need to cast and pick up our pickup. So we can say pickup p equals pickup in round parentheses hit. and then we just say p.action. Okay, they're all pickups, but we need to send a reference to us as a player, so we say this. Okay, that's all we need to do. We don't have to know which pickup it is, because we did the override for action. The right method will get called for us because the compiler knows which object it is. Okay. Right, so that will cause the action for speed down, speed up, invincibility, and slow down to run. Okay, so let's just go back to player, which I've now lost. Okay, so all we've got to do now is code up those methods that we generated. So let's just scroll down. Right, so for the invincible one, we're going to say can die equals false. So we're going to say, oh, you can't die now. Now to make that work, in our collision handler, if we scroll up again, back to hit something, we've got this else here. We say else if hit is enemy, but we should put and can die. So we're saying and, well, what is the value of can die? If it's true, then yeah, we'll be able to hit the enemy. If we want to be invincible, we just turn that to false, and that stops the enemy being hittable. The other things are still hittable. We can still pick up coins. Okay, you could just turn collision detection off, but then you won't be able to pick anything up. So this is a more preferred method. Now, what we don't want is for us to stay invincible forever. Okay, so what we can use is a timer. Okay, and it'd be nice to indicate to the user that they're invincible. So like flash the player. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the timing system to do that. So in order for that to work in the constructor for player, so scroll up to where the constructor is. At the bottom of it, just after we set the collision stuff up, we're going to say timer initialize. Okay, so that initializes the timer subsystem for a sprite. Okay, back to the invincible method. Remember, there's an easy way. If you use this picker, it's alphabetical for everything, and you can just click on something. Oops, I didn't click on the right thing there. Click on invincible. There's a bug there, I'm sure there is. It does that a few times. Right, I'm back at invincible. So after I've done can die, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, right, okay, let's flash the sprite, okay, for a certain amount of time. Now we know we've got this float v, which we knew was the invincibility time. So let's just change the name of that parameter. I'll call it invincibility time. Right, so I'm going to say timer dot flash, and there's loads of different flashing methods, but we want it to flash and then stop flashing. Okay, and it'll ask us how long. Well, that's invincibility time. And then we set how long do we want to display it. So I'm going to say 0.1f and then 0.05f. So that will be on for a 10th of a second, off for a 20th of a second. Flashing sort of looks better if the on and off are slightly different. So that's what I'm going for. Right, and then what I'm going to do when that timing's finished, so I'm showing you a few different ways here of doing timers. I'm going to say timer dot timing done callback, and I'm going to say equals collide again. So when the time is up, it's going to run a method called collide again for us. So let's just generate that because it doesn't exist. So control full stop, generate method collide again. And all we need to do there is say can die equals true, and that's turn collisions back on. Okay, so that's a nice little routine there that will allow it to run for a certain amount of time and then will be active again. Okay, let's have a look at changing the speed. So again, we've got a parameter in Visual Studio guessed at V was the name for it, but this is going to be our speed factor. So I'm going to rename this to speed factor. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to set the current speed. So I'm going to say speed equals our standard player speed times speed factor. Okay. Now, what I want to do here is, again, I don't want this to stay active. You might want that, but I don't want it to stay active. I want it to turn off after a certain amount of time. Okay. Now, again, what we could do is we could have another parameter. So let's just do that. Let's add another parameter. So let's call it duration. So I've just added another parameter to change speed, but I need to make sure I go back now to speed up and speed down classes because they're going to moan. So I'm going to have this last for 5 seconds. So I've changed my call to change speed so that I've added the extra data. Do the same with speed down. So comma 5. Okay. So yeah, from time to time you may need to do that because you want something else to happen. Right, let's go back to player. So now I've got duration. So what I can do, I can create an event and let's just create an event. So reset speed equals gm dot event manager. I'm doing it this way because I want to do something a bit different, and I'm going to say delay call. So the time we want to delay is for the duration, and what we want to do is we're going to reset the speed. So I'm going to say reset speed. That's what I'm going to call when the timer's up. Oh, I won't call it reset speed. I'll call it revert speed. I don't want to get confused with that thing I've just called reset speed, that field that I'm going to create. Right, so revert speed. So let's generate revert speed method. And all that's going to do is set the speed back to standard speed. So it's going to say speed equals standard player speed. Okay, right, now I've got this. So I'm creating the event and I'm creating a reference to the event. So I'm going to store that as a field. So I'm going to say generate field. So I just did control full stop. Now, if I pick up, this can be construed as a level design issue. If you've got two pickups close together, so you get a speed up and then you get another speed up, what you don't want to happen is for your speed to reset while you actually should still be going at a faster speed or a slower speed, depending on what pickup you picked up. So what we've done here, we've created this event and we've got a reference to it. So before we activate our revert speed event, which is this line, we're just going to make sure that any previous event is destroyed so that we don't like double reset the speed. Okay, so I've made that reference. So just on the line above it, I'm just going to say gm.eventManager.remove, and that'll cancel the event, anything that is reset speed. So it'll get rid of it if it exists. If it doesn't exist, it won't complain. It'll just say, fair enough, it doesn't exist. But that will stop us picking up. Okay, so just a slight issue there. Okay, with that. Now, for the bullet, we've got to do a similar thing. Okay, so what I'm also going to do is I'm going to go down to where my change bullet speed is, and I'm going to add another parameter, and I'm going to rename this one. So speed factor again, I'll call it, and then I'm going to add another one, another float, and that'll be duration. This is going to be very similar to the one we've just done. So we're going to say bullet speed equals standard bullet speed times speed factor. And just like we just had, we're going to create an event. So we're going to say reset bullet equals new equals gm.eventManager.delay call for the duration. If you make mistakes, just do undo duration, and then we're going to call revert bullet speed. That doesn't exist, so I'm going to do control full stop and say generate method revert bullet speed. Still got an error, so we're going to say over that, I'm going to say generate field reset bullet. And again, in the exact same way, I'm going to say gm.eventManager just above it, remove, press escape if that thing's getting on your wick to get rid of the picker. So reset bullet. Okay, so revert bullet speed. Again, it's just going to set the bullet speed to the standard bullet speed. Okay, so let's just have a look. So we've put all the responsibility for actually manipulating the player sprite is up to the player. So we've made these methods that he's put internal in front of, which is the same as far as we're worrying, the same as public. So it means they're accessible from outside the class, but it's the responsibility of the player to make the changes. Okay, you shouldn't be allowing another sprite to directly manipulate the way another one works. All right, that's bad. Okay, but we can provide these interfaces in this way. And that's what you show on your sequence diagram. So if you did a sequence diagram with this speed up, you'd show that at one point during a method, it interacts and sends a message to player.changeSpeed and gives it two values to mess about with. Right, okay, so that was a little bit whistle stop. So we've added some more tiles. 1, 2, 3, 4. We added the stuff to level to spawn them just at their positions. We created them as inherited sprites from pickup. Okay, and in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that thing I said. I'm going to put vector to pos. So I'm refactoring here to pull out that duplication. And then all I need to do is in pickup, say position 2D equals pos. And then I'm going to go back to my 4 inherited pickups, and I'm just going to change the constructors so that they pass on that value to the base constructor. Okay, so I'm going to just do that and delete the position 2D. So you can see the code for the speed up class is ridiculously simple because we're inheriting and we got rid of any duplication. That's how we want our code to be. So do the same for speed down. So do base pos. There's no semicolon after that, and then delete the position 2D line. So invincibility, so end of the constructor, press enter, base, pos, delete the position 2D, and slow bullets, enter, base, pos, delete the position. I didn't set a color, I didn't realize that. So wash equals color dot lime I'm going to use, which is like bright green, arcade green. Oh, and the change bullet speed I need to update with the time for the bullets to stay. Okay, so in player, what I had to add was a few fields to keep track of some of these changes. So the player is quite a complicated complicated object now. So we've got the standard speed, we've got a Boolean that allows us to turn on and off collision with enemies. We've got standard bullet speed, and we've got 2 events that it's created called reset speed and reset bullet. Okay. The other thing that we need to do, it might be that we kill a sprite and these events are still active. So we just need to do a cleanup routine. Okay, so if we go to the line after the constructor, which is there, so we're in between 2 methods, and we type override and then press space, there is a method called cleanup, which is called by the game engine for us whenever it removes or destroys a sprite. So in here, we're going to say gm.eventManager.remove, and we add reset bullet, and we add gm.eventManager.remove and reset speed. So we just make sure we clear up those 2 events so that they don't get triggered after the sprite's been killed, because that'll cause a crash, or actually can cause unfortunate and unseen problems. Okay, with object references that we thought had gone but still exist. Okay, so we're just doing a little tidy up. So you can, if you want, always put that in for every sprite you create, and then as you add extra resources that you've set up that aren't managed by the game engine directly, then you can put things to clear things off, like message subscriptions can be unsubscribed in a cleanup routine as well. Okay, so let's run this and see if it actually even works, which would be a miracle. And then that'll be that video done. Okay, so I'm just building it. All right, so it's running. So hopefully we'll, oh, it's crashed. No, it's not done anything. Oh, there we go. Didn't press 1 properly. Ah, I have no sprites on screen. Why is that? It's interesting. Let's kill that. Right, hang on. Oh, I know what I didn't do. Fatal mistake. If I go back to my level data, level 1.text, I did not add 1, 2, 3, 4 to the legal tile list, so it just ignored them. So add those in, run the video again, run the application again, rebuild. This time we might get them. There you go. So they're me dots. I can't remember. Blue, I think I did 1, 2, 3, 4. So blue should be slow down, was it, or speed up? Oh, there you go. There's Mario's running like a loony, but he'll slow down in a minute. There you go. So he's slowed back down again. This was the slow down, so we'll go even slower. And then he'll speed up again in a minute. There you go. Speeds up. This one was Invincibility, so it'll flash, and I should be able to just run through the T. Whee! But if he's not flashing now, I just got killed again. And then this one was slowing our shots down, so let's shoot. You see how slow my bullet's going. So you could do that as like one of those like negative pickups that you don't desperately want to get. There you go, they're going back to normal speed. Okay, so that's one way of, there's millions of ways of implementing pickups, but that's not a bad way of doing it. Okay, end of video.